Yes, we are. Here's the theme music.
Enzo.com. Enzo.com.
Apparently, there's a network error
Well, natural.
on my Parlor. But it's okay because who the fuck cares? Let me just get into this, man. We don't need we don't need people to actually watch. What the fuck?
That's what I've found over the years with my podcast.
What is up? Let me get into this. What is up, you beautiful bastards? Thanks for tuning in to another disaster. With a face for radio and a knack for laughter, I bet my fans aren't as pretty as us podcasters. Two Gonzo journeys on tonight's show. It's me, Bobby P, on the East, joined by my West Coast bro. The FBI set their sights on him, but he won't roll because Shawn Bradley Witzemann admits he entered the Capitol. He don't give a fuck. He was just covering what was going down. He's an independent journalist / satirical clown. Live streaming from the rotunda. Krampusnatch did nothing wrong. Happy Cinco De Mayo, everybody. Sit back, relax, hit a bong. Take a shot at tequila and throw on your sombrero. I think my guess is Jewish, not Mexican, but their differences are narrow. Anyway, thank you for tuning into Bobby Pickles podcast.
Bobby Pickles Podcast. That's me.
Yeah. Sorry, I just I like starting with stupid poems recently. And just I like the whole writing thing of it. Anyway, I try to relate it somehow to my guest, and I hope I did something. First of all, what is up with the Krampusnatch name? What is that, Krampusnatch?
Krampusnatch. So years ago, before I even cared about the internet, I played beer league hockey with a bunch of guys on a team called the Goats. And I was never big on Christmas, and I was griping about it one year while I'm in the locker room putting my skates on.
Is that because you're Jewish?
I don't know. It's just because I'm weird.
Was I correct about that? I mean,
well, there's some Jewish heritage there, although there is some Latino heritage in there somewhere too. So I'm a mutt.
I was just going off of the last name Weitzman. That was it.
Yeah, it was very good. No, not particularly. I just, for a lot of years, I looked at myself as being agnostic.
Well, wait a second. If you got the Latin in there too, then it's good. The Cinco de Mayo poem works, actually. Jesus Christ.
That's it. Well, funny. I probably shouldn't talk about this, but, years ago, I actually went to jail on Cinco de Mayo. That's a story in and of itself.
Oh, my God. For what? For what? Just tell me.
Oh, I was on probation, and then I got in a bar fight on Cinco de Mayo, and I shouldn't have been in the bar anyways.
That's good.
Interestingly enough, that was a long time ago, and that had a lot to do with me kind of knocking my shit off, so to speak.
So you're a Gonzo journalist who was live streaming in the Capitol. That's like the elevator speech of what's going down with you. I know that does not define you, but that's what you're going through right now currently. So that's why I wanted you to have you on the podcast, talk to me a little bit about that and what you're going through and everything like that. But like I said, you do go by this weird nickname. You have a nickname, Krampusnatch, and that's what we were talking about. What's the deal with that?
Well, again, so I'm in the locker room and I'm putting my skates on and I'm griping about how they're trying to shove Santa Claus down my kid's throat at school. And my buddy Chris Leeper, just looks over at me and he goes, "I'm going to call you Crampy from now on." So it got turned into Krampusnatch, Krampusnatch, so that there was many variations of it as I played on that team, the Goats. And then when I started messing around on the internet, that just kind of became part of who I was.
Sweet. Krampusnatch. Well, thanks a lot, man, Krampusnatch. Now, you're the owner of Tribune Media International LLC. Is that right?
Yep.
What is that? Tell me about that.
Well, that's a media company that I started in 2019 as a result of a lot of satire that I had done beforehand. I started a page on Facebook called Farmington Tribune that, we kind of picked on everybody and made everybody flip out and lose their minds over, fake news stories. And it was a lot of fun. And as it kind of moved along, I knew that it was going to be something more. So, like say in 2019, I went ahead and started the LLC, and it's a growing process. I've always, I've started to compare starting a media company to pushing a ship to sea with a bunch of holes in it. That's how it feels.
What made you want to start the media company?
Well, I think it was always a desire to create. That's a big part of it. I mean, even when I was a kid, I had this thing where I was amazed with like real journalism. So it was just a natural progression more than anything else. I know that, and you may be getting into this, but like part of it was that I had planned a trip to Armenia. And so, prior to that trip, it was just a lot more taking it seriously. I even had an idea at that time where I wanted to produce a film that was kind of like a satirical look at the life of the different people who were involved in writing for Farmington Tribune. And so partly we may get into that later with the other weird names that I do.
No. Don't, you know what? Forget what I said earlier about, follow my outline. Fuck the outline. Don't even worry about it. Let's just go off. Tell me about this crazy stuff. So all right. So under Tribune Media International, you have some satirical and factual coverage, both, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Why? What's the deal? Why do you have kind of like The Onion? Is that the satirical stuff?
Well, when they wrote us up in the paper about Farmington Tribune, there was a local newspaper, and they said that we were like The Onion, only less funny. Was the way they put it in the Durango Herald.
Nice. Let me pull that up really quick. Actually, I think I have it right here. Hold on one sec. It's right there. So, satirical website, the Farmington Tribune digs at Four Corners issues. A new Facebook page called the Farmington Tribune that aims to be a satirical online news site for the Four Corners is causing some ruckus and confusion because its creators haven't explicitly identified its intent. The website's posts are often filled with borderline true stories that change only a few key details using a different tactic than many similar satirical publications like The Onion and Clickhole utilize. The real danger is this leads to misinformation, said Elizabeth Skewers, an associate professor of journalism and media studies at the University of Colorado at Boulder, who reviewed the Tribune's Facebook page. It's fine to do humor, but they ought to be more responsible about it, especially since some people are being misled. There's nothing there to indicate they're trying to be satire, and that's not in the interest of transparency. Mostly, the Tribune posts fake stories about northern New Mexico issues, but Colorado has not been spared. This week, the publication posted a fake story that said 2 Durango High School sophomore football players were charged with the sexual assault of 2 freshman players. The post goes on, without an indication of humor, that a Farmington attorney representing the victims filed a lawsuit against the high school and that one of the supposed perpetrators is a son of La Plata County Sheriff's office deputy. The story also says the case is being investigated by Durango Police Department. Interesting. So, yeah, there's this. So you don't explicitly say that the news site is indeed satirical. Does the Onion explicitly say that they're satirical?
I don't know if they do have a regular disclaimer on there. We took a different attitude with what we did because people would say really stupid things in the comment sections. And so that led to us, memeing them basically when they would say these stupid things. And we called that our real news section. Or so like when we were doing direct quotes of people, we would do a hashtag real news. So we kind of took the other approach where we said, well, we're not going to label as satire. We're going to label something when it's real news. And I've kind of kept with that over the years.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, did you have like a comedy background or something like that? Why the satire? Like,
no, it was. I was sitting there and after work one day, because I've been in plumbing a long time. I own my own plumbing business, and I was just bored, so I decided to start this. It was just a creative outlet for me.
So you're an older dude, I mean, you're like probably like my age or somewhere around then. You have kids and stuff like that, and family. You're an entrepreneur. You have your own business, and do you have like a background in writing or anything like that, or?
No, not particularly at all. I mean, I was a GED.
And then you just you're a GED student, and then you just go and start a media company, and most of it's completely fake. Yes, this is brilliant, brilliant.
Well, I mean, with the exception when we got into doing the podcast.
Of course you were arrested for going in the Capitol. Of course.
Well, I mean, yeah, anyways.
By the way, this is water. This is not beer.
I think we all know why they started arresting people.
Oh.
That's water, not beer. Well, it's good to see you, taking care of your health and your liver. It's important.
I think so.
I'm not so good at that.
So you actually, man, you were causing a commotion online, and then all these people were, Jesus, they writing news articles about your site and stuff. You mentioned before about Armenia. What is the Armenian Council for Truth in Journalism broadcast? That's a podcast that you do. Let me show that too. I think you have you have a YouTube channel here.
Yeah, we're on YouTube, Facebook, wherever we're allowed, where we don't get banned. That's for sure.
So, that's amazing that you're still on Facebook because I've been kicked off of Facebook and Instagram like first.
Well, the page is still on Facebook. I'm not personally allowed to be on Facebook. They deleted my account along with my Instagram. But I mean, all these pages had multiple managers and contingencies, I guess you could say, because it was always a thing that was going on was bans.
Okay, and then so on the channel, what do you post on the channel? The Armenian Council. Tell me about that. Tell me about this page.
I think the way we described it there was irreverent and thought-provoking commentary and analysis on an eclectic range of subjects as the flagship broadcast of the TMI network. Because over the last year, we've produced some other shows. There was a real kind of conspiracy guy who comes on there, Lou Starsky, and we had a show that he did for a while called Lou Starsky Plays Ball. We had one that was more kind of like a late night kind of vibe, kind of chill, that we worked in production on, and that was called the Nameless Program with my buddy Jay Shin out of Los Angeles. So, I mean, it's kind of like a bunch of guys working together trying to build a network in our mind.
So it's basically like a podcast network, kind of. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, that's where it's working. I mean, right now we did a bunch of pre-production recently, and we're actually doing a much more serious New Mexico-centric news show called New Mexico Rising that aired its pilot episode on Sunday.
Cool. So that article was talking about the Four Corners. So you live close to what is the Four Corners?
The Four Corners is where New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah meet. So they call that the Four Corners area. I'm in a place called Farmington, New Mexico, just kind of a small little oil field town. It's a real red county in a very blue controlled state. So it's an interesting place for sure.
Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, I grew up here, born and raised.
What is it like being from Arizona? Oh wait, New Mexico. Sorry, New Mexico. Did you say New Mexico?
Yeah, I said New Mexico.
It's
That's
the
all right.
it's the Four Corners. It doesn't matter. It's all the same.
Everybody flies over. It's fine.
It's all the same. It's those 4 areas are the same, right?
Well, usually what I hear is that I'm from Mexico, so that's an improvement.
Okay, well, in those Four Corners area, you live close to the Four Corners. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything really dramatic between those places? Like if you went to one corner and lived close to the Four Corners, went to another corner, it's all pretty much the same, right? Around there.
They just say around here there's a lot of holes in the desert.
So what's it like being from New Mexico, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an interesting place. We have our share of corruption within the government. That was something that I picked on a lot with different satirical stories with Farmington Tribune, much to the chagrin of certain leadership figures around here. But it's like a small town, oil field town. I grew up here, and I like traveling as much as I can.
You like traveling because why? Because that place is what? It's awesome.
Yeah,
right?
you might say it sucks. I mean, the thing is that there's a lot of outdoor stuff to do. So, I mean, it's beautiful country. I'm an hour away from from like 12,000 foot tall mountains that I can go play around in. So if you're into outdoor stuff, four wheeling, all that kind of stuff, it's great.
Oh my God, it sounds like fucking Florida. God.
Yeah, it's probably like Florida with more rocks.
Florida with more rocks, yeah. Florida with more rocks, yeah. Oh shit, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. Oh, what I picture is blue meth. Yeah.
Well, there is a lot of methamphetamine in this area. That's something that that reputation always precedes the place.
It does.
Since but no, meth is a big problem here for sure.
So how similar is Breaking Bad? Like Breaking Bad is there some things that goes on in that show? It's like, wow, that's New Mexico right there. Yeah, that's
pretty accurate. They did a good job of portraying New Mexico, I think. I mean, it might be actually a little, it's cleaned up. The reality is probably a lot dirtier than what you saw on the show.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I would think so. I mean, we have the reservations around here. There's a lot of, human trafficking, drug trafficking, and everything else that moves through the area. I mean, you have the Navajo reservation. My city sits right on the border of that. So it's kind of like having a country outside of the country, inside of the country, which leads to its own problems.
Nice. Now you said one of your newspapers is called the Denver Tribune.
Yeah.
And how far is Denver from where you are? Is that close to the Four Corners?
It's about 7 hours. It's about 7 hours, which it's funny. Most of my business operations are in Denver these days. I hardly do anything in New Mexico because the economy is so depressed here. Which years of Democratic leadership have definitely done their job in the state. But yeah, so Denver Tribune was another one that started. A friend of mine helped me start that one. He saw what I was doing with Farmington Tribune. He kind of wanted in on the party, so we worked together for a long time on that as well.
Well, what is it like? So many different people are just like starting their own newspapers. I mean, can you tell me the thing behind that? I mean, I think it started with like Mike Cernovich. He ended up on 60 Minutes, and this whole thing with clickbait and things like that. Tell me why you got into. I mean, this you told me a little bit, but I mean, really, like why? Like, why did you get into this? Did you just wanted to create something that like.
Look, people look at fake news. People look at fake news all the time, and they buy into it. And in a lot of ways, in my mind, I was picking on that and picking on them and trying to make them wake up and understand that you can't trust everything you read on the internet. I mean, and the stories that I was writing for both of those were so ridiculous. And we used to say we would write something, when we'd have our whole kind of team working on it, because we would work, collaboratively and, try to put little jokes in or little tells. And we'd say, no one's going to believe this. And then sure enough, there'd be people that thought it was real.
I mean, I think back to what was the broadcast about UFOs back in the day?
Yeah. The War of the Worlds.
Didn't that happen over by you or something?
I can't remember exactly where that was, but I think everybody was listening to the radio. I don't know that story well enough offhand, but I know the story. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's been referenced as satire. Between that and a modest proposal. You look at old satirical works. I mean, even Benjamin Franklin was known to just mix satire with real news in his publications. I think it's always been a tool of teaching the public something.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there has always been, some kind of fake news. I learned that from, Mark Twain. If you read Mark Twain used to be, he just used to write articles before, he authored books. And if you look at some of the titles that they would use, they would have clickbait. I mean, they had so many newspapers battling it out all over the country, these little newspapers everywhere. And if you were going to pick it up, you had to have a good headline. Sometimes they would have like a huge headline and then like say something ridiculous. And then underneath in parentheses or whatever, say the truth. So
yeah. I mean, and that was a tactic that we utilized often with really sensational headlines. I know there was one story years ago where we talked about how there were zombie moose that were invading this small community. And there were some people that got really mad over that because, again, people thought it was real. They were like, oh, there's zombie moose. They're coming to kill everybody. It's absurd.
Yeah, but you got to get people's attention. Like, for instance, this title of this podcast is Gonzo Journo, who got arrested for going inside the Capitol, Shawn Bradley Witzemann. So, I mean, live with Gonzo Journo, who got arrested for going inside the Capitol. That gets right to the point, and, you're trying to get people's attention,
Sure.
Because it is true. But before we talk about that, let's talk about, so you started live streaming, right? Mm-hmm. You had some live stream coverage. You started live streaming the different protests that were going on with it throughout the last year or year and a half or whatever. The BLM protests in Denver and Portland. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I worked with a kid. And actually, my friend Brock Willett, he went out in the Denver protests first because when they started popping off there, I just told him, I said, because we'd always talked about, doing real news. And to me, live streaming was, coming into its own in a lot of ways as a form of journalism. And I told him, I said, well, you're up there. I said, go out and get some, And so he did. And then it kind of led to me working with this other kid, Dylan Beresford, who went on to start his own media company afterwards, where he, was going to Portland, in Denver, covering that. And so I was very involved in that whole process.
But so you weren't actually doing the live streaming yourself?
No, I was doing it on a production standpoint. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Nice. Yeah. What was some of like the best stuff that they caught in like Denver? What was refresh my memory? What was going on in Denver? Just protests?
Yeah, it was Black Lives Matter protesting. And I mean, at the time, for me, looking at it, Denver was pretty peaceful compared to the rest of the country. And I felt that there was people out there, whether you agreed with them or not, that were exercising their First Amendment rights. And I felt like it needed to be covered. Dylan is not at all politically aligned with me. He would say he's a socialist. And so that was always kind of an interesting relationship. But it was honest as far as what he covered. He actually ended up getting tackled by police when he was walking down the street with some BLM protesters who were saying, hands up, don't shoot. The police jumped off the truck, tackled everybody. He got away. It was kind of it was good video.
So this is somebody that you worked with in the capacity of, the journalism.
Yeah.
And he was not aligned with you politically. That's nice. No. So you can get along with lefties?
Yeah, I try. I mean, I try to talk to everybody, even with what we're doing now. And Farmington Tribune, we had a lot of people that even worked on the satire side that came from different political ideologies. And I felt that was something that was always cool about it, was we made fun of everybody.
Mm-hmm. So how did you attract people to work with you on your ventures? Did you find everybody online?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them were online. With Farmington Tribune, there were people that I knew in real life that saw the post going up, and even though they didn't know it was me, they got excited about it. One particular guy that became a really popular writer with Farmington Tribune, I actually just hit him up because he had made a post and he said, "I want to know how I can work with Farmington Tribune." And so I hit him up and I said, "Come on, man." I said, "Let's do this." And he was really one of the best writers we ever had. His work is fantastic. Hunter S. Johnson is what he went by.
What? Great name. Great name. I actually, that's Hunter right behind me.
Yeah.
I love Hunter S. Thompson, man. What
He's
is it?
fantastic.
You think so? Do you consider yourself a Gonzo journalist?
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, if I'm going to something, the story kind of almost writes itself in a lot of ways. So that in that regard, yes. And I suppose in my own right, I've become something different. And time will tell how that continues to evolve. But as far as just letting the story develop in front of you, you're inside of it, and you're observing, and you're part of something.
Mm-hmm.
So where you're not getting a big disconnect from whatever it is that you're covering, and the story isn't necessarily the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I know how Gonzo journalism came about. I mean, it was Hunter S. Thompson basically invented it, and well, I don't even know really if you think about it. If you think back to all these journalists that we're talking about, like Mark Twain era and stuff, I bet you there's a little bit of Gonzo journalism that he was doing as well. Actually,
Sure.
I mean, he even created modern day stand up comedy as we know it. That's why that's hence the Mark Twain Prize and stuff like that. I mean, he was saying comedy is basically a reflection of you and right? What you got going on? It could almost be like, I think you could maybe make the argument that it's kind of Gonzo journalist-esque or something like that. But yeah, so we have a lot of Gonzo journalists now that exist in the world, I believe. I mean, with the advent of cell phones and being able to go live and do what we do right now, like podcasting and stuff like that, it's all about the person who's covering the thing, whatever the story is, inserting themselves into the story as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I definitely do it. I consider myself a Gonzo journalist, but certain, I don't think the law really applies to us so much because we are participating as well or whatever.
Well, there's always a certain level of participation and holding back. I mean, on the level of my Gonzo journalism, I think more of it's the way I engage with people, and the way I engage with just the whole situation, where I tend to make jokes the entire time I'm on a live stream, regardless of what's going on. That doesn't mean that I'm necessarily getting involved and becoming, an all outright activist or anything like that. I still try to keep it where it's observing for the most part.
So,
and provide commentary.
Did you cover anything in Atlanta or Phoenix or Washington D.C. yourself?
Yeah. When the first Million MAGA March came up, it was at that time I decided to go out to DC and check it out, and see what was going on, see what I could see, as I always say. And that led to me just walking around at night, and eventually, like say, when there was retaliation for all the attacks that happened that weekend, and everybody went into BLM Plaza, like say, I was there live streaming that, and after that, it was like, well, I'm covering this now. This is the story that I'm following. So I ended up going to Atlanta, doing the same thing, to Phoenix, doing the same thing. Which Phoenix, there wasn't a whole lot going on. I sat in the hotel room where they were having the hearings with Giuliani, and I just sat outside the lobby and just kind of listened to people talk mostly.
And so you're referring to the voting recounts, right?
Yeah, they were having a hearing to discuss the election fraud. And so Giuliani was presenting that to the Arizona State Legislature. And they were doing it at a hotel in downtown Phoenix. I had gotten a room there. I was sitting outside of the ballroom and just listening to people as they spoke, whether it be Ollie Alexander was there. Michelle Malkin, kind of the usual suspects, I guess we could say.
Oh yeah, it definitely is usual suspects. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in Atlanta, did you happen to see the total scum Enrique Tarrio by any chance?
I did the total scum Enrique in Atlanta.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, and it was interesting because I think, like I told you previously, my understanding of Proud Boys or knowledge of them was pretty minimal. So that was part of the story I started following after the Million MAGA March, the original one in November. Was just kind of observing how they interacted with things, talking to them, and trying to find out what their take on the world was.
And what did you come to discover?
Well, it seems like you guys are a bunch of Western chauvinists, and I can't particularly fault you for it.
and do you have any do you have any ambition to become one or anything like that?
Oh, not particularly. I mean, I respect what you guys do, and it's like I told the FBI. Obviously they asked about all that, and I just said I sympathize with them. So take that for what you will.
Okay, so you basically during DC January 6th, okay, your coverage of the events, they unfortunately resulted in you being charged by the Justice Department. Sure. Let me pull that screen up here. Let me check. Right in here. Yeah. Shawn Bradley Witzemann. Case number 1:21-3 CR-314. Knowingly entering or remaining in any restricted building or grounds without lawful authority, disorderly and disruptive conduct in a restricted building or grounds, violent entry and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds, parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building. Wow. Associated documents, Witzemann complaint, Witzemann statement of facts. What is that about?
Well, there's a statement of facts because I went in and spoke to the FBI probably on January 15th, as I recall. That date might be wrong.
It says that you were actually arrested on you were arrested on April 6th. Sorry, April 6th, 2021.
Yeah, I wasn't arrested until recently. I had been called in. The FBI had come by my house after I'd returned home from DC, and they said, you need to come in. And I said, you don't have to come in. I said, nah, it's fine. I'll come in. I'll give you an interview. So that's what I did.
Really? You went in, they called you up, and you're like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah. I mean, everything I do is public anyways. So to me, there was nothing to hide.
Oh. So is that how you kind of feel about it? You really don't care to what about like talking about this stuff right now? You're okay with that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with most of it. I'm being, represented well by an attorney who's very expensive. But the reality is I was there doing what I did. I'm not ashamed of anything I did. So,
and that's it.
Yeah.
You refuse to apologize.
Well, I don't think there's any need to apologize because again, it's like I've had people ask me, they're like, well, if you had it to do over again, even with the charges, would you still do the same thing? And I'm like, yeah,
you would.
Yeah.
Let's watch a little bit of your live stream here. You got some live streams still on YouTube. I guess they haven't pulled it down fully. But yeah, I know how that is. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, there's people in there, can't breathe. Back the fuck up. It's your side. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Why y'all doing this? You didn't have to do this.
Dude, get back. What is it? Dude, get back. Are you kidding me?
Right now. Dude, she's unconscious. You are
Guys.
bothering her.
Oh my
Get
God.
back. We got one person out over here. Get back now. We got one person. Now. Move so I can get her. Move so I can get to her. She's fainting. She's unconscious.
Open it up this way. You open it that way.
Everybody clear. Come on. Make some room for her. Make some room. For fuck's sake, make some room! Make some room!
Give us some space. Give us some space.
Make some room! I'm trying, man! What the fuck do you want me to do?
Watch your feet. Watch your feet. Move.
Stop!
Please, watch your feet. Hey, stop pushing. Stop pushing. We got one down here. Grab her.
I'm trying! Help her! Get her back!
You got her? Damn, get up. Shit.
Please get her!
That's mine. Watch the woman. You're about to step on her. Watch the
I'm
lady.
trying! Get her and grab her and get her out!
We're all trying to get out. Back up. We got her.
Thank you!
We got her.
Back up.
Oh, shit.
Back up.
I'm trying, man.
Back up. Everybody back up. Back up.
We want to get out. I want to get the fuck out. Friends, stop pushing.
Back up.
Come on, man. Let's get her help.
I can't do nothing, man.
Oh, fuck. I'm moving with you guys. I'm not fighting him. I'm not.
Just go that way.
I can't. They're pushing against me.
Back up.
Back up which way? I can't go that way. I can't go that way. Man. They're pushing against me. And the police are pushing back this way. There's the police in front of me.
Tell me a little bit about the lady right there. There's a lady on the ground, and you were capturing that moment. She was passed out or something like that?
Yeah, she was passed out, falling in the floor. Hundreds of people, police and everybody pushing in. It's funny when we talk about would I do it again. Sometimes I think about that moment, and I think that's why I was there. Kind of weird how that works out. I put my hand on the police in front of me, like this, and just holding it out there to hold them back. And it's like you have the camera there, you're trying to do everything at once, and I don't know. I spent weeks after that wondering if she was one of the ones that died. It was kind of messed up. And as far as I know, she survived. So I'm happy for that and thankful for that.
Now, what about that commentary that was happening? Was any of that you speaking, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm screaming, make some room, for fuck's sake, make some room.
That was you, for fuck's sakes.
That's me. Yeah.
I like that. That was pretty good.
And it's fun. I listen to it and I'm like, it sounds kind of funny when I listen back to it. But in that time and place, like I say, it was pretty scary.
So how did you enter the Capitol? Tell me about the day. Let's go back to everybody was congregating, I think, at the Washington Monument, right? At first, early in the morning. Were you over there?
Yeah, I was over there. I was supposed to meet up with somebody and supposedly get better access to Trump's speech. That didn't pan out, and I kept trying to connect to a specific app because I was working with OpsLens Media as well, which is another outfit that I was working with that day and giving them footage to. And that wasn't working. Nothing was working. I was walking around milling about at the Washington Monument. Trump was speaking. I could barely hear him. And I'd always known that there was supposed to be something that went on at the Capitol later on. So I made the decision, and I can't remember the exact timestamp offhand, but it was before Trump had really finished speaking, that I was going to walk to the Capitol at that point and try to get a better position for whatever happened there, as far as filming it and everything else.
And were you by yourself? Are you with other people, like a crew?
I'm by myself. I had seen our friend Jonathan. I had seen him earlier. Said hi to him, Jonathan Lee Riches.
Oh,
and yeah, I'd said hi to him because we go way back. And I said hi to him, and it was like, oh yeah. And then we just kind of went on our separate ways, because most of the time what I'm doing, I do by myself anyways. I don't have a crew. There's no money for that. Again, it's a ship with a bunch of holes in it that I'm pushing to sea. So at some point I decided that I was going to walk to the Capitol, which I did. Walked up the mall. And by the time I got to the Capitol, all the initial barricades had already been pushed through. Like the whole crowd had pushed up to the west stairs, and there was police there. There was tear gas going off, And then it looked like to me, Proud Boys and Oath Keepers moving up those stairs. So
I can't confirm or deny any of that. But that's what it looked like. Okay. Interesting. So you and then as you got closer, which way did you enter into the building?
Well, so there was kind of a standoff there on the stairs for a while, and I was right up against the police line, talking to police, and like I say, I tried not to get cranged in the head with tear gas canisters or whatever else, pepper balls that were being shot. And then at some point they got an order to stand down, I assume. That's my understanding based off of watching, impeachment hearings and the way they framed it that way as well now too. And then everybody moved up those stairs and up towards the Capitol building, which would have been on the northwest side, that northwest entrance, where the windows were initially broken and all that. So I was kind of milling about there. People started going in, the doors opened, and it was like, well, this is what's going on. So I went on inside.
Did you enter through a door or a window?
I went through a door. No, okay. I was not interested in breaking windows or breaking shit.
Did you notice who was breaking windows? Did you notice any weird people out of the ordinary breaking windows?
I didn't see with my own eyes who broke windows. The only thing I've seen as far as that is again me making assumptions based off of video that's been shown around the world at this point and saying, okay, well, I was in the general area. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And so as you enter the building, like, where do you go first?
Well, I had never been in the building and I had no idea the layout. So as far as where you go first, I didn't really have any clue. Again, doing what I do, you try to get up to the front of the line wherever shit is going on, because that's where the footage is. So, the first thing I did, obviously going in through that entrance was I would have turned south on the first floor and headed into the crypt area, right below the rotunda. And there was a certain altercation going on there with police. And so I was right up at the front of that, kind of standing next to one of the pillars. And then, a push came, the police kind of went down in front of all of it and everybody moved in. And then after that, things got a little different with the way the police even reacted, where it was more like, oh, they're tour guides and please stay in the ropes. So I went down that way and I walked down a hallway. There were some police that started leading everybody down that hallway. I didn't like that. So I turned back north and went up a staircase, and this was after like I'm standing there like flirting with one of the Capitol police officers, and it's just really bizarre. So then I get up to the second floor and I'm up there and I go into the statuary area, and that's kind of where they were like, oh, well, everybody stay inside the ropes. It's like, okay, this is bizarre. And continued heading south towards the House side of things, the House of Representatives. And then there was like a little hallway between that, and there's a statue. So I just kind of stood next to that statue and drank a bottle of water at that point. And then at some point, like say, really heavily armed Capitol Police, there was a gunshot, which at this point I assume was when Ashley Babbitt was shot. I saw heavily armed Capitol Police run by me and head that direction. And then Capitol Police came back and started telling everybody to go back into the rotunda, which, every time I got an order from police, I was, okay, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. I mean, that's just how you handle it. Even when the street fights in DC were going on and I was involved in that, filming it, being up close and personal, when the police tell you to do something, you try to comply, because you're not doing yourself any favors as somebody who's trying to document it. So, back into the rotunda, everybody kind of was hanging out, milling out there, and I'm a hippies kid. So I was like, well, maybe this is going to be like a peaceful sit-in. That's what I thought. And it didn't turn out that way. It turned into kind of a nasty mosh pit with everybody getting crushed inside of the rotunda, and that's all in the video.
Let me play a little bit of more of this video here.
The police are pushing. Not me, it's the police.
Go that way. Come on. Give us the rules, okay? Thanks. Go. You're back up. Just back up. Hold the line. Hold on. Push him in.
Oh, you all right?
You gotta leave.
Yeah, you gotta go.
You gotta leave.
Go ahead.
Let's go, man.
We don't want
As
to
soon as I
push.
can. Yes, we can. One coming out. One behind you.
One coming out.
Hey there. Come on. Keep moving. Trying, brother. Come on, y'all. Let's go. This guy's pushing. They're pushing back.
Take it easy on the furniture.
We don't blow shit. Hey, would you move this? Please, I don't want you to blow.
I can't, medic, please. Please. I can't. Please help him back up to the door or somewhere, please, officer. Officer, I can't breathe. I can't either. Okay, ask your officers, please, if we can make a compromise. Please, I can't, brother. I need it. I don't want to fight you. I'm not even pushing. I can't. Oh, shit. Help. Stop!
That hurts. I've been there already.
I can't. Please, let me squeeze in, please. I can't breathe. I won't do anything. I can't.
You gotta get out.
I can't breathe. Please take your arm off my throat.
Who's got the fucking club?
I'm not doing anything, I promise.
Elbow me, fucking God.
I'm not doing anything. Guys, stand down, please. Back up to the doors or something.
This officer took my fucking credential. Put the flagpole down, please. Please. Fucking tear gas. I don't want the rubber bullets coming out, bro.
Guys, please make a compromise.
We're trying to make a point, but I don't want to fight these guys either. Good push, officers. Good job, guys. Let's go.
Hold the door. I thought give me my fucking credential back. Hey, over there. In circle. They opened the door. How they open the door? I thought the door was locked.
Sit down.
Sit down.
I ain't sitting down in this
Sit down.
crowd. I cannot sit down. That's a death warrant, and you know it.
Sitting? You can't sit?
I
You
don't
have to
trust
lay
you
down.
guys to
Just
protect
sit
me.
down.
I don't. If this crowd moves in, I need my head above water, brother. I can't sit down. You know that.
Those doors not locked. Secure the door. There's probably one of theirs. Where's the door?
Go that way. Everybody this way. You're staying here, bud.
Fascinating. So right there at that point, so they closed the doors somehow? They got those doors closed and then...
Yeah, some way they got the doors closed.
Holy shit. That really looked...
What's going on?
That really looked like a war that you guys were... Man, you guys were all... That one guy couldn't even breathe. Holy shit.
It was bizarre, and I think at some point you hear me laughing, but that's almost like this attitude at that point. You know, where it's like, oh, we're either going to get crushed. You know, who knows what's going to happen. So it's like I was just looking at all of it. It was just like bizarre. I use that word so much to describe that day. It's just bizarre. I mean, right down to the guy who's like, oh, we're trying to make a point, but we don't want to fight you guys. And I'm going, man, what is even going on here? Like, did you guys come here to fight? Did you come here to make love? I don't know. It was just bizarre. All of it was bizarre.
Well, I got to commend you for continuing to record like that.
It's what I was there to do.
Now, when you were there, were you primarily live streaming stuff?
Yeah, I was live streaming to Instagram for the large majority of it, but because of connectivity issues, a lot of that never uploaded.
Really?
Which, I lost pretty much all the footage prior to that.
You probably had some really awesome, insane footage, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
But because you were live streaming the whole time, it wasn't on your phone.
Right. It's gone. And especially, I mean, I think some of the real intense images were out in front of the Capitol. Obviously, there was the guy that fell off the stairs and died. That was pretty bizarre.
You saw that?
Yeah, I was there.
Wow. Did you push him?
I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell how he fell off. He just fell bad and wrong. And that was it. It was lights out for that guy.
Oh my God, really?
And they dragged him off. You know, so yeah, there was a lot of footage that I lost. I even told that to the FBI. I said, well, if you guys have any ins to recover that footage from Instagram, let me know because I'd love to have it back.
So during that conversation with the FBI, at what point did they like, okay, turn around and put your hands behind your back? You know, you're going to jail.
Never during that initial interview. It was all very cordial, very respectful, no problems. And then, like say, I get a call, 4 months later. I was actually up in Denver working, and the special agent who had interviewed me and who actually did the affidavit of facts associated with the case, he called me and he said, oh, Shawn, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm up here working. He's like, you think you can come turn yourself in? I said, yeah, I can come do that. So that's what I did.
Wow.
And then so I turned myself in the next day after that, and they took me to federal prison for like 26 hours before they released me.
Nice. How was that? How was that little stay? What was your experience like going to federal prison?
I hadn't been to jail in quite a long time. It'd been years, so, I was pretty disappointed with the COVID regulations. I couldn't even play cards or do any of the things that you normally associate with pod life. The food was horrible. And I was glad to get out and get back to my family.
It was kind of like just in the holding cell kind of thing?
Yeah, it was like, well, no. So they took me in, they put me in like a holding cell while they processed and did all the booking. And then they, gave me a cell. I had a cellie, and then you're basically in COVID lockdown. So you don't even get out of the cell except for 20 minutes a day.
Wow.
So it's not very much fun in there right now at all. I can't imagine. So I was in there for roughly 26 hours before I was released after I saw the judge. And I mean, it's 2 hours away from where I live. So, you know, my old man came and picked me up. I told him, we were laughing on the way back home. You know, it was like, oh, well, I thought we were done with this. You know, you coming and getting me out of jail. So, you know, it was like flashback to old times, I guess, in some ways. But
it's a bonding experience.
Yeah. When I was a lot younger and I was getting in trouble, I remember my dad. He was always there for me. He never, you know, he didn't appreciate what I was doing with my life in those days, but he was always there for me. And it's kind of cool that he was there again in its own special way.
I was a juvenile delinquent too, brother. I totally understand.
Yeah, you try to improve in life. Sometimes you make leaps. Sometimes it takes back, but this one doesn't feel that way. Let's finish
this video. I think I find it pretty interesting. Sure. It's captivating. Let's finish this really.
Listen. Hey. No. We're staying here for right now. Just stand by. They'll give you directions, all right? They're going to give you clear directions. What is this gas? Tell you what to do. Hey, everybody listen up. Hey, everybody in here. Listen. Hey. We're going out this way. Let's go. Hands up that way. Let's go. That way, please. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, y'all made a lot of good decisions today. I appreciate you too.
We just want everyone to be safe. Let's head towards the exit, all right?
Yes, sir.
Keep going. Still here? Watch your step, guys. Watch your step. Watch your step, sir. Watch your step. Watch your step, sir. Watch your step.
Doesn't matter, we can be glam too.
The best part was we were talking shit back and forth.
How you doing?
I'm okay. Just trying to kind of get a handle on what's going on around here.
Yeah, nobody wants problems with you guys. I think you know that. I can breathe again. That makes me happy. It was pretty stuffy in the rotunda.
I can imagine.
You guys made a lot of good decisions today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Are they arresting our people?
Man?
We're not. So we better wake up, people. This is our battle. This is our revolution. And this is our day.
Roger, wait.
I'm gonna take you.
ass like I'm out. And let's tip that motherfucker over.
Come on, baby. Come on, brother. You got it. Come on. All right.
Well, that was my first time in the rotunda.
Yeah. You went in there? You went in there? Fuck yeah, I think
They let us out in the end after almost killing us all.
USA! 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 USA!
It ain't over yet. They're gonna send the city goons after us next.
Well, the mayor set that curfew for 6 p.m.
Wow. I love just hearing all the, what everybody has to say and stuff, and just hearing all the regular people talking right there. It's like a movie, man. Or they could use something like that in a documentary film or something. It's pretty good footage. I like it.
It was bizarre. It was really bizarre.
Yeah.
I'd say I stood up there after that. I smoked a cigarette and then walked back to my hotel. And then by then they had started shutting down, the whole city, locking people in the hotels. It was all very bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Too bad that you didn't record more and not live stream as much. Actually record it.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, that might have been the way it was, but the way I was reaching people was through that live streaming. On January 5th, because I had gone over to TikTok because I was actually on Facebook banned from live streaming, and so I had gone over to TikTok, and I had gotten a little over 20,000 followers in 4 days on the app, and then TikTok disabled my account permanently. And so then all I had left was Instagram and OpsLens, which I kept trying to make work. So that's what I did. There were a lot of people that were following me on the live, including my mother. So when it went dead, when that live stream went dead, there was a lot of worried people. So I stood there after that video. I smoked a cigarette, and then I walked north towards the Supreme Court. When I finally got cell service, I made a little video and let everybody know I was okay.
You need to quit those cigarettes, man.
I know. It's
gross.
We'll see if that happens. We'll see if that ever happens.
So I know that you got to get off soon because it's coming up to the time you do your own podcast at 10 o'clock, right? And that podcast is the ACTJ podcast. Is that correct?
The Armenian Council for Truth and Journalism.
Right. And what is the story behind the name for the podcast? Didn't it originate from a joke you made based off something your dad routinely said when you were a kid or something?
Yeah, my dad's a plumber, so he'd be trying to open parts or whatever, and he was also big into the old records, one of which was Fire Sign Theater, which some people might know what that is. But my understanding is that they would say that this has been hermetically sealed by the Armenian Medical Association, and so that joke stuck in my head when I started writing the satire and fake news, and people would go, "Oh, this is fake news," and I said, "No, this has been independently verified by the Armenian Council for Truth and Journalism." So that's where that goes, which is funny because when I went to Armenia, it everybody got the joke over there. Like, they loved it. They immediately understood it. And then I came to find out that during the Soviet Union, people there would tell what they called Radio Yerevan jokes, where they would say really horrible things about the Soviet regime, but then they'd say, "Well, I heard it on Radio Yerevan." And so they immediately understood the sarcasm with having like this fake news accreditation council. They immediately understood the joke. It was kind of cool where I saw that go full circle, because my attitude when I went to Armenia was I'd been joking about it for so long that I probably owed them to go over there and actually learn something about their culture instead of just being an asshole.
Do you have any Armenian in you?
I don't. I mean, I guess we're all from the Caucasus Mountains. If you're white on some level, that's where we get the Caucasian bit from. Interestingly enough, I do have very good Armenian friends. And as a result of everything I did with that, I kind of got involved with doing some different things and helping them promote different Armenian charities, especially in regards to the war that was going on over there over the summer.
And what about the Armenian genocide?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's all part of it. Obviously, I said, Joe Biden was probably a little behind the curve in recognizing that, and I'm sure he has his own ridiculous reasons for doing so, which we kind of delved into. But yeah, I mean, that was a dark time in their history for sure.
Isn't that ironic that Joe Biden is the one that did that, and you call your site you allude to Armenia?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I was always a bit disappointed with Trump for a lot of things, but that was one of him not kind of stepping up to the plate and doing that, even though I understood the strategic and geopolitical implications of why he chose not to, because it complicates the whole relationship with Turkey. Interestingly enough, my uncle's Turkish, so I heard from him about what were you doing in Armenia.
Oh, so
But,
your people were the ones that massacred the Armenians, dude.
well, no, we're not blood related.
And then you culturally appropriate that shit too. You are scum.
I know, absolute scum. But I think people who get the joke learn to appreciate
You're
it.
a SPUMANGI. That's Italian for scum. Now, all right. So I know you got to get off. You got to start your podcast and stuff. So, if people want to contribute to you, and they, so that you can continue your ongoing work, and you can, get a little bit of legal defense, they can go to blog at what is this? Relativeprogress.com.
Which it started out, it was a blog site that my co-host Thaddeus Preston started. And so I've been using that as a place to publish. And he actually set up a little fundraiser there that hasn't been particularly successful. But people can always contribute to PayPal and Cash App while I still have them as well. It's at Krampusnatch. So that's the easiest way.
Yeah, Krampusnatch. That's KRAMPUSNATCH. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I should have put that under your name right there, man. So it's blogs at relativeprogress.com. You can send an email. Is that right? Is there?
Well, if you scroll down, you'll see a few different stories and things written, and I should be at the bottom of the page. There's a little section there as well.
So it's at the relativeprogress.com.
Yeah.
It's on there. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I guess you know what? The last thing I want to ask you about, this right here. I want to ask you about this right here. This thing.
Yep.
This right here.
That's the one.
Yeah. Is that you? Is that you wearing that?
That's me. I figured for sure. And I think we figured out I bought that from you that night.
Yeah, you probably did. See, well, what happened was Enrique Tarrio, SPUMANGI in chief, he was arrested and the day before, and I quickly printed all these Enrique Tarrio Did Nothing Wrong shirts and was selling them there at Black Lives Plaza the night before the 6th. You must have purchased this from me at some point. I had a couple of my Proud Boys helping me, move the product.
They were hot off the press and coming out of a duffel bag, and I said, "Yeah, I'll take one of those."
That's right. I had the duffel bag, my friend. Great, good stuff, man. I'm glad we met each other out there.
Well, it's funny how many people I did meet. Some of them I remember, obviously. Like we talked about, I ended up speaking with Joe Biggs while I was out in DC on the 12th, and got to know him a little bit. He was gracious enough to come on my show, and what's going on with him seems pretty fucked.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great that he came on the show, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm blessed with all the different people I've met. I mean, obviously when we talk about Proud Boys, what they put in the media is not the reality at all. And I guess I got to see and get a glimpse into that reality. And for that, I'm always pretty thankful.
Good. Are you a proud Western chauvinist who refuses to apologize for creating the modern world?
Probably.
Just fucking say yes.
You say that, here's the thing when it comes to that. When you guys use the word chauvinism, it's beautiful because it has so many horrible connotations in it to people on the left, and I think that was genius.
I can't believe Derek Chauvin's name is Chauvin.
Yeah, I don't know how that works out. That's pretty bizarre in and of itself, too.
Honestly, the universe is like so insane. We're definitely in the Matrix.
I think so. When I think about the way everything's gone, I'm amazed, just amazed.
Yeah.
And as far as Western chauvinism goes, we're getting a real bad taste of what it's going to be like, once we let that light go out. So again, thanks to what you guys do, because I felt like there was a lot of times in DC where that was the last of the people who cared.
Well, thank you very much, Shawn Bradley Witzemann. Thank you for being on the Buy Pickles podcast. I really appreciate you. And thank you, all the people watching tonight's stream. Thank you for watching the Wednesday evening stream, you SPUMANGIs. If you're in the market for custom t-shirts, check out fatenzo.com for our line of pseudo-intellectual party shirts. Check out fatenzo.shop for Perry's and Proud Boys swag. Check out proudenzo.com. I'm Bobby Pickles, and I've had an outstanding time with you this evening. I appreciate you very much, but I'll appreciate you more for liking and sharing this podcast. There's a 20-year-old nerd sitting in the back room at Google with cum stains crusted on his pants, deciding who wins or loses in life because he learned how to code while living in his mommy's basement. It's time to fight back. Give that dork a slap by posting this to Facebook or Twitter or Parler, whatever. And hey, happy Cinco De Mayo, SPUMANGI. Adios.
He always says that's me. With that look on his face, he'll talk about anything. Outstanding. Tattoos, t-shirts, politics, history, and hot sauce on everything. Bobby Pickles. Pop culture, documentaries, conspiracy theories, sarcasm, and fear. It's a conversation.